When someone mentions the term superhero, I feel like it's fair to say that usually one of three characters come to mind. From Marvel Comics, you have Spider-Man, which, cannot be credited to one specific medium, but all releases have contributed to the character and his worldwide popularity. Batman, which honestly I think the most iconic thing, aside from design aspects, is the idea of the deep voice. The phrase, "I'm Batman," is unbeatable in terms of general audience comic book media knowledge. And alongside those two heroes, one I believe exemplifies the definition of a superhero, Superman. I think it's fair to say that Superman is the superhero, and most definitely one of the most popular and recognized heroes of all time. However, despite his popularity, I feel like there's differing perspectives about who Superman is. Obviously, every creator, when adapting something, interprets a character differently, and is valid to make changes, but then the question of whether that original character is still within this new version comes up. I bring this up because I think for many, the DCEU Superman movies created this popularized version of Superman that, depending on who you ask, either is a great version or ruined the character. Personally, I think Snyder's Superman works for the films and the story that he goes through. The portrayal of being the savior, akin to like Jesus, I think adapts how people would realistically view someone like Superman coming to save them. This more serious take of the character and how audience perceive Superman most definitely impacts marketing, and specifically merchandise. Superman figures over the past few years often depict him with these very stern and angry expressions. Yes, to be fair, on a shelf you could want him fighting a villain, or for an epic team display. But for me, I was looking for something else. I was looking for a representation of how I see Superman. The selfless, strong, and importantly, optimistic superhero I had grown up admiring. And to my surprise, I had seemingly found what I was looking for in an unlikely company. In the community, McFarlane Toys has an interesting reputation. Regardless of how you feel about his figures, the company has the mass market DC license for the foreseeable future, and yes, there are alternatives at premium prices. The DC Multiverse figures provide figures at a more traditional succession. I'm not a big comic book reader. I've read a handful, but I instead lean more on movies and TV representation for a collection, so figures based on comic stories and designs I usually don't gravitate towards, but admire from afar. But for the sake of today's video, I had no comic-based DC figures. One day, randomly on Twitter, I came across this. The DC Multiverse DC Classics Superman. I was about to disregard it as just another Superman release with nice bright colors. 3 pair of hands, that's a lot for McFarlane. And the most defining feature for me, he's smiling? This is my mind's eye of Superman. The bright red and yellow colors, the hair curl, and most importantly, the spirit. However, like all things, he's not perfect. Out of the package, you get a decent offering. You get your 7-inch Superman figure, 2 sets of interchangeable hands, a flight stand, and a trading card. Let's start with Superman himself, which I think looks fantastic. Depictions of Superman have him with different shades of blue, I think more commonly being a darker shade of blue than this, as this goes for a much lighter sky blue color as opposed to like sea blue. The release calls him DC Classic Superman, even providing a trading card of a completely different looking Superman, which is funny. I'm not entirely sure what classic means, as if that refers to his general look or his actual classic design. When looking at DC Multiverse figures, you can see a wide array of proportions across the different characters, some looking better than others. But in regards to this Superman, I think proportionally he isn't that bad, and strikes a good enough balance of musculature without being like extremely massive. For articulation, he's got a great range, from both double jointed legs, all foot movements, arm, bicep, and double jointed elbows with a ball joint torso. The trunks are made of a rubbery material, I suppose to not hold back the legs from any movement, but the way these joints move are a bit strange. They can hit outwards just fine, but they can't kick forward, and they're always at an angle, which is kind of weird, which makes sitting and crouching poses a little awkward to do. Something I want to point out about the trunks is their design. The design is not the traditional or classic Superman trunks, and instead features the Hope emblem because this mold is reused from this Page Puncher Superman figure. Despite the inaccuracy, I'm not insulted by it. I mean, yeah, it would have been better to get the actual Superman trunks, but it isn't something that's going to haunt me every time I look at him. Flipping him around, you get a rubber cape prematurely posed in this dynamic position. For the most part, I think it's fine, but this curl outward on the side is a bit irritating to look at. This head is immaculate. This smiling head is what intrigued me the most about this release, and I think it looks great. It's a little unfortunate, but it's rare to see a smiling Superman head with an action figure release, and the fact that McFarlane was the one to do it at a fair enough price, I think surprised a lot of people, including me. I've seen some people say that this smiling face is too goofy looking or something, and y'all are cowards, man. This is fine. This is Superman. What do you mean? He can't smile? You want him to be angry all the time?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And now we move on to seemingly the biggest discussion regarding this figure. His hands. As you can see, they are massive. Superman has giant, cartoonishly large hands, and I think this is hilarious. I'm sure there's no real reason why these hands are so big. I'm thinking it might just be lazy reuse, but I'm honestly not really bothered by them. I think it's really funny. I'll quickly go over these sets of hands. You get 2 fists, 2 flying hands that could be used for flying or outdated trends. And finally, you get this open, grabbing, almost claw-like hands. I'm not entirely sure what these are for. Maybe just relaxed hands or something? I'm not sure. With just 2 more accessories to go, we have a trading card with a basic summary of who Superman is, if you didn't know who this guy was, I guess. And finally, you get a flight stand, because Superman flies. And this stand just sucks. This is a stupid stand. I don't like this thing. These figures are too heavy for these stands to actually hold them up well and get them in a good pose. And this clip only moves like up and down. You can't move it any other way. So unless you're posing like a rocket ship flying upwards, you gotta get a bit creative with how you balance both the figure and the stand. Overall, despite some strange design choices, I think this is a solid Superman offering. For me, he has all the details I would want in an ideal Superman, and counts as a good representation for one of my favorite heroes. I was a bit late to the party for this guy, so you can't purchase him directly from some of the major retailers anymore, but as I publish this video, he's available directly from McFarlane's website, so you can get him at retail price or or harass someone on a reseller website for a lower price. Knowing McFarlane, this definitely isn't the last time we'll see a DC classic Superman, so you may also just want to wait it out, I guess. Or you can wait for another company to make a Superman figure that fits more to you and what you see as Superman. But this release for now is good for me. Though he probably would look pretty good next to some other DC figures. Maybe I should work on that. I don't know. But for now, I conclude this video saying that this Superman figure from McFarlane Toys is pretty good. I like it. Thumbs up, as people say when they review things. I don't know. I probably should know. This is like my 3rd review. Okay, I'm ending this video. Bye.